Right on.
Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest. His name is Dean Henderson. Last name is spelled Henderson. And we're going to talk about his most recent book. The full title is Royal Bloodline Wetiko and the Great Remembering. And it's interesting how this book kind of came to my attention. Dean, by the way, I published one of his old interviews he did with the recently deceased Keith Hansen, aka Vyzygoth. So I'll put a link to that older interview. It had to have been almost 20 years ago or 15 years ago, back in the 2007, 2008 or something like that. But that's another one. And this is not his first book. This, I think, is his sixth or seventh book. But check it out. But it's interesting. It came across my desk because I had just driven across country, drove out to Texas through kind of indigenous, what used to be called Indian lands. And it really, I always was flying over. Like I always wanted to fly. And now I don't want to fly because I don't want to go through TSA or I don't want the real ID or anything like that. I actually felt free driving across country, believe it or not. Even though it was long, I didn't have to go through any checkpoints. I maybe stopped to have some agriculture ask me questions or something. Some passing through the states. But the Indian country, the old kind of this haunted kind of feel of America really came through. I went to Four Corners, and this book kind of has that approach. It has this kind of interesting approach, and we'll get into that. And Dean can talk about that, but I also want to mention his other books. He's written Big Oil and their bankers in the Persian Gulf, Four Horsemen, Eight Families and their Global Intelligence, Narcotics, and Terror Network. There's also The Grateful Unrich, Revolution in 50 Countries, Sticking to the Matrix, the Federal Reserve Cartel. I cover that a lot on my show. Illuminati Agenda 21, the Luciferian plan to destroy creation. We are in that right now. And then again, another book is Nephilim, Crown, 5G Apocalypse. And we were talking in the pre-show, look, I've done a lot of research into the Pilgrim Society and the Knights of Malta, these kind of clandestine, kind of secret groups that have a lot of members of people who are influencing us and are influencers. And a lot of that stuff is in this book as well, which is pretty cool. It's nice to see that. Again, the full title of the book we're going to kind of cover today is Royal Bloodline Wetiko and the Great Remembering. And again, the guest is Dean Henderson. So, Dean, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, William.
Awesome.
I appreciate the kind introduction.
Cool. So for people who haven't heard your name, maybe haven't heard your background, you've written and been around on different shows for a while. Maybe you could just introduce yourself, talk about the span of your research leading up to this most recent book, Royal Bloodline Wetiko and the Great Remember.
Yes, I guess I started my first book, the Big Oil book, was a master's thesis at college. I was getting my master's in environmental studies at University of Montana, and we were protesting the Gulf War big time. We had the biggest per capita protests in the country, according to Nation magazine at the time, and raising a lot of hell and getting it followed by the FBI and DEA and the whole mob squad descended on Missoula. So people got thrown in the psych ward. I bailed out to Japan to teach English. Probably had a really good time, and so I came back and dusted off it was a 144-page thesis, master's thesis that I did. It was called the Gulf Cooperation Council, Regional Resource Security State for the Regime of International Capital Accumulation, RICA, instead of RICO, kind of, little tongue-in-cheek on RICO statutes, the organized crime laws, and it's RICA, because basically these Gulf Arab states that Trump recently was over there smooching up with, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman. Those are that area is where 42% of the world's oil lies, underneath of that area right there, and that's why it's significant. That's the only reason it's significant. Israel is significant in an economic way, in the same way, in the sense that it's not a Jewish homeland. It's just an economically significant location for the city of London bankers who own everything in the world. And so they took those sheikhs under their wing, and to this day, like British special forces defend those monarchies. Each of those is a monarchy, single family rule, bloodline. It's a bloodline. It's part of the bloodline that I talk about. So anyway, that was where it started. initially, you have resistance right away from some, like the thesis advisor was, well, you can't. You found out Rockefeller owned, okay, at least a 4% interest in all these big four oil companies, so that's pretty much a cartel at that point. But we can't talk about that. That's conspiracy stuff, they'd say. But then the facts is right there, and I'm like, no, that's going in there. Here's my footnotes, and we're going to do this like this, and okay, fine, and just get quiet. But that's academia for you. They're cowardly. It's a cowardly place where corporations increasingly fund the research, and even I'm glad I didn't get a PhD. I'm glad I got
There's
out
all
after
kinds of
this master's degree.
censorship and self-censorship in
Oh,
academia is
and
off the
worse
charts.
now. Yeah, and worse now. Worse. That's right. Worse now than ever, even back when I was going through it. So, um, at any rate, so it kind of progressed from who owns the oil companies to who. Then I'd sent like, when I was doing that thesis, I'd send like Freedom of Information Act requests because they were classified. My requests were classified as Freedom of Information Act requests by the government. When I asked, for example, who owns um, the 10 biggest bank holding companies in the U.S., that was classified as a Freedom of Information Act request. I couldn't know that information. So, because you find out, okay, the banks own the oil companies, and then there's these bank holding companies that own the banks, and that's where it sets. And so that's where the Federal Reserve cartel owners hide. And so I just kept researching it, and you find out who the families are. Like there's 8 families that control 52% of the New York Federal Reserve. Fact, 52. The New York Fed is basically Citigroup and J.P. Morgan Chase anymore because they've absorbed all like Chemical Bank and Morgan Stanley. All that's been taken up into those two giant banks now, pretty much. Citigroup is Travelers Group is part of that. Discover is part of that. Um, and the same can be said on the West Coast with the San Francisco Fed, which is the second most powerful. Not LA, San Francisco. It's in San Francisco. Wells Fargo and Bank of America pretty much constitute that Fed, which is the second most powerful Fed, by virtue of the fact that those are the next two biggest banks. So New York Fed, 52% ownership, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Goldman Sachs, Warburgs, Lazards, Israel Moses Saifs. I'm missing a couple. I always miss a couple. Kuhn Loeb. I'll think of the other one. Anyway, there they are, and they're intermarried with other families, of course. And this is just but then you find out this is just the banking people. This is just the people that do the banking. So they're not necessarily the most powerful families. Anyway, I just kept researching it. Yeah, you get into the city of London. I was already into that in that big oil book, noticing how, wow, the British sure get a lot of benefits from our dying in war and such, things like that. And then you start finding out who the Red Cross is, and the Rosicrucians. It's Rosicrucians, Red Cross. Of course it is. That's Rosicrucian means Red Cross in Latin. So, and how important the blood is. All of a sudden, these people are so obsessed with blood. So the Rosicrucians are actually really pretty up there in the bloodline hierarchy because, anyway, my understanding now that I know what I know in this last book, it's about that. It's titled, it's Royal Bloodline Wetiko. It's actually pronounced Wetiko, and it means cannibal of the soul. So like, it's funny how like a lot of native tribes had the same concept, and this is a word. The Wetiko word comes from the Apache word. The Cree call it Wendigo. The Lakota call it Witko. So it's real similar. And then going back in other traditions, the Muslims called it the jinn. The Archons called it. I mean, the Gnostics called it the Archons, and we call it today AI. So yeah, that's right. That's synonymous with Nephilim, with Anunnaki, with all them things I just said. Okay, so and everybody is, that's what's interesting as you go across all these different historical cultures. I guess that's the point of the book, is to give support to these conspiracy theories from ancient history, from tribal people's perspective, and also more importantly, maybe is the great remembering part, which is understand the tribal perspective, which is what will bring us out of this Wetiko, this cannibalism of the soul. It's like the difference between a hunter, say working for the crown, comes to Alaska and he sees a bear stand up in the trail and he just shoots it because it's in the way and he's scared of it. And that's Wetiko. That's just like, I'm going to take that bear out before anything bad happens to me because I'm so scared of God's creation. I'm so terrified of what Creator has given us in a perfect way, in a perfect order, in front of us to use as we please, not have to feel bad about it or guilty about it or any of this part of the. It's all part of the Wetiko. It's all no, it's all there for you. But now you make it complicated, and you have to. But that's not human nature. Human nature is the good stuff, and this other thing that's happened to us is the intervention. And that's kind of what this book is about. Is how 80, I believe 8,500 years ago, this bloodline descended on Earth. You can call them Anunnaki, you can call them Nephilim. The Bible does. You can, they came from outer space, the heavens, whatever, however you want to interpret that. It doesn't even matter. Fact is, this is the first thing we have for written language. A cuneiform language is on the stone tablets in Mesopotamia, in Samaria, that were translated by Sitchin and others, and talk about how the Sumerians were subjected by these outer space people that came there. One of them was named Nazi, and one of them was named Enki and Enlil, and they have corresponding figures in Egyptian mythology and in biblical mythology as well. They enslaved people. They pushed. It says right in the tablets they forced them into agriculture from hunting and gathering, which is what indigenous people did for over 100,000 years, easy. And we're finding out now it's probably way longer than we thought, millions of years probably. So and did just fine, and this is pretty sustainable, pretty peaceful way. Occasional class over territory, it's going to happen. It's territoriality. The Indians they don't own land, they have territoriality. You stay out of my territory. That's where I hunt. It's just polite. You just do it, or maybe you get your horse stolen. But we're not going to cut your head off either, or send you in front of a firing squad like Wetiko settler people do, because we're psychos, because we tortured, abused by these things. Anyway, so 8,500 years ago, Samaria, King Sargon, the first king the earth has ever seen. Okay, there you have it. And that's when he appeared, and that's where he appeared, was Samaria, King Sargon. Then you have King Marduk very shortly after that. And then you find out, wow, okay, so all your crops were domesticated about the same time everywhere in the world in 8,000 to 8,500 years ago. All your animals were domesticated everywhere in the world all at the same time, everywhere in the world, 8,500 years ago, 8,000 years ago. How does that happen? And then at the same time, you have these, Angkor Wat springs up, and Tikal springs up, and Chichen Itza springs up, and the pyramids spring up, and all these, to me, is instead of like being stupid and saying, "Oh, the Aztecs sacrificed people too; they were just as bad as we were." No. They were forced into sacrificing people by these aliens that came in, forced them into agriculture, forced them to feed their cities, their lazy asses, while they sit in the temple doing nothing. Sound familiar? And that's what they did, and they were the ones that I believe forced. Mel Gibson makes a shitty movie called Apocalypto. It's just horrible. It's like, this has nothing to do with it, man. It's like indigenous people were enslaved and then forced to sacrifice to these gods, these phony
dark gods,
and it's
really
all about
bleak, dark
bloodline,
stuff. Yeah, the Aztecs
dark
enslaved
stuff.
everybody around them. They were really rough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and the Mayans ended up, but where did it come from, and why all of a sudden, and again at the same time, and it's like, this isn't something that's human nature. This is something that's being imposed on people from outside, and it's still today. It's the case. This is still being imposed on us from outside, and it lives in the castles of Europe. That's what I found out. It owns the city of London, which is the most powerful square mile. It's a separate jurisdiction, William, as not part of the UK, not part of London, separate jurisdiction. The banks pretty much run it because they get the more votes by virtue of their size. The bigger the bank, the more votes you get. Imagine that. That's the definition of fascism. It has all these Freemason lodges. Every single bank in the city has its own Freemason lodge, and then the Grand Poobah has his Freemason lodge. The Bank of England is there, where all the offshore money goes, whether it's Cayman Islands, Bermuda, Bahamas, Vanuatu, whatever it is. It goes through the city of London, numbered accounts. They administer all those offshore accounts in those little havens. Panama, doesn't matter. They administer all of it. The Bank of England, they're the only ones that know about it. Who owns those numbered accounts? And who's the Bank of England? Well, obviously, that's the same bloodlines, and that's
Yeah.
there's a reason King Charles is the biggest landowner in the world. He's the biggest landowner in the world. Let that sink in. I mean, they're not just figureheads. Okay, that's just another inverted lie by the Satanists to keep you off balance. They're obviously the most powerful things in the world. They don't do shit. They live in castles. They don't even pay their own way. They eat steak and lobster every night. I mean, come on, man. They get the best food. They get the best bed. They get the best. Why? They don't do anything. What do they do to better things?
Best
No, they own BlackRock.
information,
They own Vanguard.
best education,
Everything.
best of everything.
Everything.
And in the city of
Everything.
London
And
is
they,
also the Master Temple. So you have the Master
yeah,
Temple are
that's right.
there, and also the
That's
Inns
right.
of Court.
The
So
Master
all of
Temple.
the
Yeah.
law, all the lawyers
Yeah.
throughout the empire are
That's a good
centralized
point.
right there.
The Temple Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's
It's called
four
the
inns.
Temple
Yeah,
Bar.
yeah, the
And
Temple Bar.
every lawyer in America, every lawyer in America who pledges to the bar probably doesn't realize that when they pass the bar, they've passed the British accredited regency.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
become a
it's
British
British.
accredited regency, a bar. Yeah. So it's all law of the sea. They started all this stuff way back. They moved to an island that they call the United Kingdom. They're not kidding when they called it the United Kingdom. You should take that seriously. That's a United Kingdom there.
He
That's
owns
where
all the
all the
land,
kings and all their wealth
all the
and
property in
yeah,
all the commonwealths are all leaseholds that he owns. So
that's right.
that's
That's
why
right. That's
Carney
right. The
came out
crown
of the
leasehold.
city of
Right.
London to Canada, closer to you, and made the loyalty oath
Boom.
straight to King Charles III, who is the,
How does that happen? Yeah.
the big regent,
Former Bank of England
yeah,
governor becomes
Knight of
Canadian
Malta
Prime Minister.
and the regent for the Pilgrim Society, the overlooker of the Pilgrim Society, of
There you go.
whom
Very
Tucker
powerful man. He
Carlson is a
is.
member, our
Good
most
one.
vaunted and famous
Uh-huh.
man of the people and great journalist
Some people
is,
say. Yeah, I've heard that before, so it could be something to it. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's really something. And yeah, so George Soros, he's handed all his stuff over to Mark Malloch Brown, Lord Mark Malloch Brown. See, anytime you hear a title, it's rotten, it's pedophilia, it's drugs, it's bad. It's lazy people who never had to do shit and got everything from daddy and mommy and except love. They ain't any of
Prince
that.
Andrew
It
to
doesn't count to
definitely,
me. Satan doesn't count.
Dean,
Blood
Prince
doesn't count.
Andrew had to pay out Giuffre, who suspiciously died in Perth
Yeah, he
this
suspiciously
year,
died.
12 million pounds for mommy's, funds.
Here's how it
And
works. Listen,
Mountbatten was King Charles
Mountbatten.
III's
Nice.
mentor who
Prince
liked to
Philip.
go to the Malta and hit the young boy,
Yep.
whatever,
Yep.
teen
Prince
boy
Philip was a
sex clubs. Yeah.
Mountbatten. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Prince Philip Mountbatten. That's Charlie's daddy. He
well,
was a
Philip was
Mountbatten. So it
supposedly
runs in
involved
the
in the.
family.
Have you ever heard the story of Philip
Philip,
and the
horrible.
Profumo affair?
He's one of the most brutal individuals that has
Yeah.
ever walked
Yeah.
the earth, man.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that
Okay. Well,
particular
he's
affair.
rumored to be
Maybe you should tell us
involved in all
about
this kind of
it.
depravity with the Profumo affair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so these
Yeah.
guys,
That's what I
they're
hear. That's
not.
what I. Yeah.
They're closer to Eyes Wide Shut than you would think.
And he was the guy that Prince Philip said he wants to reincarnate as a virus and kill half of humanity right before COVID broke out. But anyway, then he's dead
I'm sure it's only
of
a
a bruise.
coincidence. It's just a coincidence
Yeah, only
that his son
coincidence.
started the
All
Great
just coincidence.
Reset,
They're
and
all
COVID
just
broke out. Come on,
coincidence.
people, put
Yeah,
it
that Prince
together.
Charlie was the guy. Yeah, at the
They're
World Economic
bitter.
Forum.
The
Wasn't Klaus
kings,
Schwab. It was
Dean,
Prince
Dean,
Charles.
Dean, Dean. The kings are bitter. He's bitter about the decline of the British Empire. So it was an imperial thing.
Well,
This whole
he's over in
reset is
Canada now,
imperial. Yeah.
basically threatening us, saying, "Oh, Canada, you need to find different allies." And talking about Trump, how Trump's saying he's going to make it a 51st state. So they sent the king over. Yeah, and it's serious now. It's like, ooh, he's really worried. So I just hope to God that Trump just goes to war with them and just goes to war with the bloodline and just takes them out. That's all we got because Trump's enough of a wingnut that some people say that's what he's going to do. The deep state. The deep state is the bloodline. The deep state, newsflash, the deep state is the city of London. So, like, get a pair of pants on now and your boots. Pull your boots up. Be a big boy or big girl and say the city of London runs the fucking world. And quit talking about the fucking deep state. It's not a deep state. It's not even right because it's not deep. There's nothing deep about it. It's shallow as You could all get out. And it's not a state because these people are against the state. They're for privatizing everything. You understand? So they want to privatize your library card, your national fascists. Let's be clear. These are not communists. These are not, this isn't a Marxist takeover of the world. This is a fascist junta controlled by oligarchs who are so wealthy you can't even imagine it. And that's what's made them corrupt, made them pedophiles, made them think they can do anything to us they want. And honestly, we just need to take them out. And I don't care how we do
They're
it. We can take
above
them
the
out
law.
with the judicials. We can take them out with swords. St. Michael at my side, we can take them out. I don't care how, but they need to be taken out because they're harming us. And
I'll
I've
tell
had
you.
it, and
I'll
I've
tell
had
you
it
an
for 4 years.
interest.
I'm a revolutionary for
Yeah,
like
Dean,
40
I'll
years.
tell
I
you an
don't give a
interesting
fuck.
story. You know the Dutro affair, like that was that whole thing about Dutro trafficking little kids and murdering them and stuff. The purveyors of that were all of the Belgian
Yeah,
elite, and it led up to the king, who they couldn't
yeah.
prosecute because he's above the
Habsburg.
law. So he can
He's a
really do whatever he
Habsburg. Yeah.
wanted. And I think that's the way he viewed all those Belgian kids. These are my subjects. I'm the
Wow.
divine right, and I'll do whatever I
Yeah.
want and
The
get rid
King
of
of
them.
Belgium, you're talking about, right? Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's the Habsburgs. The Habsburgs are the bloodline that runs Belgium and many other countries. And they're the kings and queens of many countries. And probably like people ask, okay, what's the most powerful bloodline? Well, first of all, there's only one bloodline, right? So in the end, all these, they're all related. And I got that from a guy on CNN who just he should have kept his mouth shut, I think. But for the, if you want, but like a Burke's Peerage kind of person who was just being interviewed after the Queen died. And somebody on CNN asked him, they said, so all these royal families in Europe, are they all related? And he's like, yes, they are. So there you have it.
Intentionally,
It's
they
one
keep the power in the
bloodline.
family. Yeah, they keep the power in
Oh
the
yeah,
family. Yeah.
and yep, and they may have different names, but they're the same bloodline. So, but if you had to pick a name to put on this bloodline, that was probably there's more of than any other name, and it's pretty powerful. Part of it is the Habsburgs, and that's your guy in Belgium, the pedophile, and that's where they have apparently still have the Spear of Destiny in their castle in Belgium that was actually used to kill Jesus.
The spear of
Um,
Longinus.
you
Yeah,
know,
Longinus.
yeah, that's the other name for it. Yeah, Spear of Longina, Spear of Destiny, and they apparently have that as a trophy. And I heard they gave it to Hitler during right before World War II, and then I heard they gave it to Klaus Schwab. Yeah, that was it
Wow,
recently,
wow.
but I don't know. But, who knows,
That
right?
would be
I
crazy.
mean, no, but these people are they're weird. They're off. They're not like us. And they're not people either. They're not. These are hybrids. These are Rh negative bloodline people. This is the blood of the Anunnaki. Apparently, it is slightly blue and purplish, so that's why purple's their favorite color, and they call themselves blue bloods because it is actually a tint. There's the only other place in the world they have it is Normandy, where there was the big eugenics thing before William the Conqueror went in to take over the United Kingdom and rename it the United Kingdom on behalf of the
1088.
eugenics crowd
Yeah.
that was breeding in Normandy, the bankers, the people from Switzerland came, all the Rala Viking bloodline came down, the Vichys from France, the Plantagenets from the islands, and the Tudors and all these people. The Bancos from Venice, the Algobrandinis, all of them. And it was like this eugenics thing in the 14th century in Normandy, and it resulted in the fact that okay, so that's the other place there's Rh negative blood is in the southern part of France and the northern part of Spain where the Basque people live. The Basque people have a lot of Rh negative blood, and I think it's because there was this thing that happened there, and so there's a lot of offspring, the people that did stay there too. But anyway, it's just really interesting, and that's why the Rosicrucians. Okay, so here's how it goes now. I found out it's a council of 33. Well, it's 13 representatives of bloodlines that have a council. Then there's 33 an outer ring that sort of correspond with the committee of 300, which John Coleman wrote the book about. And the committee 300 is more technician types, but they're all still in the bloodline. If you look at I had a list one time. It was for 2000. I can't remember 16, but it was just like Viscount so and so and Lord so and so, and this is the committee 300. They're all titled people. It's crazy, and then so that's the three top tiers of it all, and that you have to be 100% bloodline of the bloodline. Okay, And then after that, you get into like, yeah, the Rosicrucians, are probably Zion is probably the next. Because see, Zionism is to graft. That's the etymological breakdown of the word Zion. It means to graft, Sion, S-I-O-N, to graft. So I believe Zionism is a project of the Anunnaki bloodline to graft itself onto humanity and to pretty much suck humans into a transhumanist cult, where they're connected neurally to, yes, to computers and all that, but moreover they lost their soul because they're committed now to questioning everything the creator made, and thinking they're better and thinking their intellect is smart, but taking a bite out of the apple. The whole Garden of Eden story, you know, we thought we were smarter than God, so we made Roundup. We thought we were than God, so we made a nuclear bomb. Dumbasses. We thought we were smarter than God, so we made these things called vaccines because our immune systems are not good enough because God didn't make them, good enough. So this whole idea that sort of God's creation is flawed, and thus humanity is flawed, and thus humans are flawed, and thus, yeah, they were only just human. That's all they could do. Well, no, man, that's a really stupid thing to say because humans are beautiful and perfect and made by God, so thus we're perfect. So anytime there's a fuck up in this world, it's the alien part of it. It's the interventionist part that made you do stupid shit. That made you go shopping too much at the mall because guess what? The aliens make money off you when you shop. That made you own too much stuff that you can't move around now because they bogged you down with your possessions and you're possessed by your possessions because
Yeah.
the aliens did it to you. I mean, you understand? It's like there's nothing about a tree that messed me up this morning or a coyote that got in my way and screwed me up this morning from any kind of lesson it would give me already. See, the Indian people, reciprocity in relationships, that's what it's about. So you have relationships with everything, not just with people, not just with your family, not just with your extended family, but with a rock, a tree, and a coyote, everything, a bird out my window, everything's your relation. So then, knowing that, you have a responsibility to reciprocate in that relationship and with everything. So if you understand that to the core of your being, well, first of all, you're not going to shop very much. You're going to live simple because you realize every time you shop, you're buying some toxic crap made by some slave in China that sacrificed the environment, that made pollution in that factory, that ran over somebody's dreams, that polluted some river, I mean, and you just can't do that. I mean, you can't do that with a clean conscience, and that's how far out the Wetiko has gotten, though, in this country. Like, it's a badge of honor to own as much shit as you can, or whatever.
Right.
It's just ridiculous. So everything
Toxic
we
stuff
do is
that's throw
against,
away. Yeah.
yeah, throw away society, of course, and just kind of affluence, and nobody, guess what? Nobody's happy. This is what my book, The Grateful and Rich, is all about. The second book, it's a travel book, and it's a Mark Twain phrase, The Grateful and Rich, and he used it to refer to these kind of climber class people who were never going to be rich, but they were so damn grateful to the rich that, oh, we're so glad the rich are here, and they were unrich, but they were so grateful to the rich.
Wow.
And for no obvious reason, just no apparent reason, just because they were. And obviously to their detriment. But I also mean it a double entendre because it's the grateful and rich I met were the poor people in the third world who were actually grateful and actually unrich too, and happy. I mean, they were happy
Happier.
for
Right.
Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Nice cat. Yeah, I love cats. I got a
Yeah.
kitty. Oh, what's his
Jeez.
name? Or her name?
This is Poppy. My cats are
Poppy.
named after flowers, or herbs. So I have
Awesome.
Rosemary
You're
and
pretty
Poppy.
well bred.
I
That's
don't name
awesome.
them. My
I
kids
got like
name
you.
them.
My cat's like
Well, that's
giant.
interesting because it brings up all this stuff in your book. You intro your
Right.
book and
Well,
outro your
that's
book.
Little Lewis. Yeah, okay. That's Little Lewis. Yeah, right.
But it's
Okay.
also
Yep.
interesting too for
You
people who
got my
don't
book.
know, Dean, is that you live in kind of Native American country. So you're in South, not Idaho,
Dakota.
you're in South
South
Wyoming,
Dakota.
which is the Iron
South
Hills.
Dakota.
Yeah,
Yeah,
South
South
Dakota.
Dakota. South
That's right.
Dakota. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
Western South Dakota. Yeah, right. Yeah, where I live, it's the Black Hills. It's Pahasapa to the Lakota people,
yes.
and it's theirs. We stole it. Custer with his gold expeditions, but that's why Custer got dead. Crazy Horse. Yeah, put it to him. So yeah, he's gone,
The
and
natives didn't
Crazy Horse put it
understand.
to a lot of war parties. He's the only.
Yeah, good.
Oh, now they're gonna try to see. They just cut us off. Oh, there we are.
Yeah, we've
We're
got
back. I'm
90,
sorry, I
we've
didn't
got
hear that.
90,
Say that again.
we have 90 seconds left according to Zoom, so we'll see.
Okay,
I can't believe we've
they
talked
cut you
40
off and
minutes.
said, "Isn't that great?" Well, I probably did most talking. I apologize.
Okay, I'm
But yeah,
glad.
wow. It's yeah. What else to say about it? I mean, look, yeah. So anyway, we got to get back to this way of understanding where I feel like reciprocity relationships. I feel like gratefulness. It makes you grateful. It makes you connected. What they're trying to do now, isolate us. No relationships at all. And they say, "Oh, we got all this social media and all." It's just it's taking away everything. It's taking away all of our actual connections, and it's bad. And so we have to really get out in the world, man, and get off of these devices, man, because devices are vices. It's how they control. You know, we do this. It's great. 40 minutes. Get out of here. Go out, rest, and hey, go out and talk to a bird, man. You're better off, man, because that's where you're going to learn something. And if we stay on this stuff, yeah, there's something in there. I can't explain it. There's something in there. There's something in these computers that ain't good. It's a ghost in the machine. They put something in there to make people lead us astray. A lot of it's just too much information. It's straight up. I mean, Alvin Toffler wrote the book. There's a reason he wrote the book. These books, just like movies, they telegraph what's coming. So he was telegraphing to us future shock. Future shock.
Sorry for the abrupt ending, but we had some technical problems. But that was author Dean Henderson. And the book we discussed is Royal Bloodline Wetiko and the Great Remembering. I will put a link to his book in the show notes so you can check it out on Amazon. And also the old interview I did, or I posted, with him and the recently passed away Keith Hansen, aka Vyzygoth, so you can check that out. That's about 10 years ago. But also, I mentioned at the intro his other books, so please check those out. Big Oil, Their Bankers in the Persian Gulf, The Grateful Unrich, Sticking It to the Matrix, The Federal Reserve Cartel, Illuminati Agenda 21, and the Nephilim Crown 5G Apocalypse. But again, the one we discussed today is Royal Bloodline Wetiko, or Wetiko, I forgot how he pronounced it, and The Great Remembering, and it's Dean Henderson. Henderson. Thanks for listening.